just a moment ago. And then for some reason, about 30 seconds into the stream, the connection was lost. Unclear to me what went out and what didn't go out. So I'm just going to take it from the top again. Good morning. Yes, I'm still having my coffee and still trying to wake up. This is going to be a continuation of and probably one of a continuing series of live streams talking or focused on the Susquehanna County Library up in Susquehanna County, Northeast Pennsylvania, and this ongoing controversy involving parents who are not happy with the library's policies, basically the library providing material to minor children and then keeping those records of what the kids are reading confidential, even from their parents. But these issues are ongoing all across the state of Pennsylvania. There's absolutely nothing unique about Susquehanna County. Susquehanna County is sort of a prototypical rural small town Pennsylvania county, right? 40,000 people-ish, a very red area. This is not the kind of place that maybe most people are focused on when they think about these kinds of issues. The fact that this is going on in Susquehanna County, I think, should be eye-opening to everybody. You should realize that, look, man, if you thought this was only going on in other places, in Philly and San Francisco and New York City, you're dead wrong. What we are wrestling with, a whole stew of issues, is happening across the state. So I would encourage everybody to focus on it, even if you have nothing to do with Susquehanna County. So one of the things that I hear all the time from folks who are responding to concerns that parents have is something to the effect of, look, I know the librarians personally, or I know people involved with the library, and they're good people and they wouldn't do bad things, and stop saying mean things about them. And I'm not trying to be snarky in my characterization. I'm just trying to sum it up. For the most part, I suspect that is absolutely true, right? Nobody is really contending that all of the folks associated with the Susquehanna County Library meet together in some sort of star chamber every night and hatch an evil conspiracy and then go forth to do Satan's work the next day. Most of them, I am absolutely sure, are in fact really good folks. They think what they're doing is good. They probably do not understand the broader context here. And they don't understand the really fundamental issue, I think, which is you may be a good person and simply just going along with the policy and accepting implicitly that this is all good. It doesn't mean that everybody who is pushing these policies has good intentions. And it doesn't mean that the folks, particularly at the top, who are pushing these policies have the same objectives that you do. It is very common, right, with all kinds of issues, that what we have are a certain number of folks who honestly have bad intent, or certainly intent contrary to ours. And then you got a lot of people who just don't really realize, maybe until it's too late, where exactly all this is intended to go. So to kind of illustrate that, I'm going to talk in a little more detail about the American Library Association today, which I've mentioned before and we've discussed in posts, but let's just dive into it a little bit. The ALA, the American Library Association, is by far the biggest association of public libraries in the United States of America. It's been around for a long time. I think it would be fair to say has been a respected institution. That doesn't mean that the ALA that existed, 20 years ago or when you were a kid really bears any resemblance to what the ALA is now or what its agenda is now. So let's just hone in on the present, right? Emily Drabinski. Emily Drabinski is a self-described queer Marxist. Her terminology, not mine. Okay, I don't care about her sexual orientation. I really, she's an adult, free citizen of the United States of America, and she doesn't need my permission or anybody else's to live her life however the heck she wants to live her life. That is her business, and that has nothing really to do with what I want to talk about today. Let's talk about this Marxist thing. She is a very proud, self-described Marxist. You don't have to take my word for it. Just get on the internet for about 30 seconds and look up her name, Emily Drabinski. And she's very proud to tell everybody that. And in fact, that's at the heart of why she wanted to be president of the ALA, was to push a Marxist agenda. So what does that mean? Okay. Karl Marx and Engels, his partner in crime, are the guys that wrote the Communist Manifesto back in the 1800s, hence the term Marxism. This is the Bible, if you will, not trying to sound sacrilegious, of communism. So Emily Drabinski is a Marxist. She is a communist, and not in some amorphous, fuzzy, that word sounds cool kind of way. No, really, I'm a Marxist and I want to transform America into a communist country kind of way. And she is very explicit about that. And let's make no mistake here. She did not drop from the sky and suddenly magically become president of the ALA. She ran explicitly on this agenda, not only of being a communist, but of using the ALA to transform the United States of America. Again, don't have to take my word for it. She's very proud of the fact that she thinks that libraries should be at the vanguard of communist change in the United States of America. And she was elected by the majority of the representatives sent from the ALA chapters all around the country. She was elected as president of the ALA running on that agenda. So just absorb that, okay? She ran explicitly as, I'm a Marxist, I'm a communist, and we ought to be at the vanguard of Marxist communist change in America. We, libraries. And the majority of the reps to the ALA said, we agree. That's what the ALA should be. Not just a place that helps libraries check out material to people, but that wants to change America. Now, what does that mean, change America? If you are a communist, if you are a Marxist, the entire political, economic, and social structure of the United States as it exists now is evil. It is oppressive. It is by definition. We are the bad guys in history. The whole capitalist rotting edifice, as they would look at it, must be destroyed. So what that means is an end to the constitutional republic and democracy, and replacing it with a totalitarian regime run by a communist party. It means an end to free enterprise and property, because everything is owned by the state, the government. And it also means very explicitly, and I say this as a guy who's been a big chunk of his life working against Marxist movements all over the world. So I don't say this as a guy who read a book one time about Marxism, but who spent more than enough time in the company of Marxists. It means explicitly the destruction of the nuclear family, because kids don't belong to you. You may birth them biologically until they can figure out a way to do it otherwise, but they are raised by, indoctrinated by the state. Now, that's not me making that up. That's the definition of Marxism. That's the definition of what, as Drabinski says, the ALA should be at the forefront of, that transformation. So God bless you if you're a librarian and you are checking out books and just trying to provide material to people. And, that's a noble calling. It really is. I'm not being sarcastic. But perhaps you do not understand that in the broader context, this ALA no longer limits itself to that. It believes its mission is to transform American society. Now, why is that important? Because Susquehanna County Library passes out material printed by the ALA in the libraries. This is produced by the ALA. It passes this stuff out to everybody that comes in. It's very proud of being part of the ALA. And in fact, if you go to one of their board meetings, at least a dozen times in every board meeting, you're going to hear the board tell you seriously that they absolutely 100% want to make sure they align themselves with the policies and the principles and the guidelines of the American Library Association, of what is now a Marxist organization. Now, does that mean that I think that everybody sitting on that board is a Marxist? Obviously not. Does that mean that I think everybody on that board understands what the heck it is they're saying? No, I don't. That's my central point. They do not understand what is happening around them and what is going on. That's what I'm telling you. Let me illustrate, let's just hone in on a piece of this. I would encourage you, by the way, to go to the ALA's website and read their material. On this brochure, you got a couple of different QR codes in the back. You point your smartphone at those things, and what's going to come up with, it's going to come up with a web address. And then if you just click on that, press on that, these will take you directly to ALA policy sites. It's also got in here somewhere the actual main address. But for instance, this one will take you directly to what is called the ALA's Bill of Rights. Now, I can't help but notice that I find it a little bizarre that an organization that is now run by a Marxist and apparently dedicated to pushing Marxist principles, which means the destruction of the constitutional republic, amongst other things, would call one of its documents the Bill of Rights, because you're not going to have any rights when this is all over. But in any event, that's what they call it, the Bill of Rights. If you go to the Bill of Rights, what you're going to find actually a ton of material. I mean, you're going to find not a succinct series of, Bill of Rights along the lines of what was adopted as the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. You're going to find voluminous material on a whole bunch of issues. But if you can wade through it, what you're going to find is a whole bunch of stuff that's really kind of eye-opening. So to bring us back to the central issue, which is materials at the library being provided to minor children and then parents being told seriously, no, I can't show you their records because it's confidential. We are told that the only reason this is happening in Susquehanna County is because there's this obscure Pennsylvania law and the library's hands are tied, and all they're trying to do is comply with Pennsylvania law, and everything else is innocent and inadvertent. So it's interesting to find that in this Bill of Rights, again, which is voluminous, there are numerous references to access to library materials by minor children. And over and over and over again, what it says in here is that the ALA opposes any effort to restrict access to anything based on age. So I will read you just one example. I'm looking at this on my phone. I brought up the website before I went live. The American Library Association opposes all attempts to restrict access to library services, materials, and facilities based on the age of library users. The American Library Association opposes all attempts to restrict access to library services, materials, and facilities based on the age of library users. There's no qualification there. There's a full stop after that, period. Again, that's not a mistake, and it's not an isolation. There are numerous references throughout this long Bill of Rights and all the accompanying material to that principle. So the ALA opposes any effort, any attempt to restrict access to, let's just boil this down, library materials based on age. Any attempt to restrict in any way access to anything in the library based on age. Now, just take a minute and think about what that means. Because there's no age specified there. There's no limit to that. It doesn't talk about types of materials. It doesn't provide any limit. It doesn't say above the age of 16 or anything. Anybody who's got a library card who has access to the materials can check out anything, and they oppose any effort to restrict that in any way. So let's talk about the Kama Sutra, which is an ancient Indian text and basically a whole series of quite a number of full color, very graphic illustrations of sex acts, sexual positions, with a lot of text accompanying it. The Kama Sutra is a historical document, and it's not just like ancient Indian porn by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of philosophical aspects to it. There are elements of Indian philosophy that this all has to do with finding your way to the divine, etc. Nobody's suggesting that the Kama Sutra should be destroyed, banned, burned. But probably your 6-year-old shouldn't be coming home with a copy of the Kama Sutra in their backpack. By the way, it's sexual positions that in many cases involve, you're going to need more than 2 people if you're planning on reenacting. So nobody's talking about destroying that, banning it, burning it. It's evil, it's bad, it's destructive. It most certainly is age inappropriate. By the way, also, handing it to a kid, probably illegal under Pennsylvania law, because it probably it clearly qualifies as obscene material. And yet the ALA is saying we oppose any effort to restrict access to anything based on age. Hitler's Mein Kampf, right? Here's this psychotic little guy who is in prison before the Second World War because he'd already tried to take over the government of Germany. He is filled with hatred and racism, and he writes a book that is the intellectual basis for launching the most destructive war in human history and the justification for genocide, for sending millions of Jews in train cars to gas chambers. This is his book, filled with a completely sick, twisted, and made up history of the German people and why they are morally and intellectually and physically superior to everybody else. This is garbage. It is hate. It is pure hate. I think you probably need to be at a certain level of maturity in your life before you're prepared to read that book, digest it, learn from it, but also understand that it is all lies and hate and twisted. And yet the ALA is saying anybody at any age can access anything. So we could go on down this list forever, right? I mean, I've posted online a bunch of links to a whole bunch of other books. I mean, endless numbers of books that are just flat out age inappropriate and should absolutely, on no circumstances, be handed to minor children. And most certainly, rock bottom, the library should not have any policy that allows you to give that material to a minor kid and then look their parent in the eye later and say, I can't tell you what he or she is reading. So back to the point of origin here, right? Yes, we got a lot of really good folks who are thinking they're doing the right thing, who are absolutely not part of some evil's conspiracy, who do not understand, in my opinion, the broader agenda here. Because the ALA did not write that. Again, I read you one line, but that principle is repeated over and over and over and over in their material. They did not write that in their Bill of Rights and not understand the implications. In fact, if you read all the supporting material that you can access in the Bill of Rights, which will take you forever, you will find that they very explicitly say that they believe it is actually a good thing for kids as young as 4 to be discussing in a school setting, for instance, sex acts, gender, sexual orientation, oral sex, anal sex. They believe that is a positive. So The local librarian may be a great person, great lady, great guy. There are folks here who have an agenda that goes way beyond just trying to help the community. And I get it that a lot of people don't want to grasp that and they don't want to focus on that. It's an uncomfortable thing to face. So don't take my word for it. Read the Bill of Rights and read the rest of the stuff that's there. Make up your own mind. I hope everybody has a good day. I'm going to go back to drinking my coffee.